A new Democratic primary poll shows Andrew Yang beating Senator Kamala Harris in her own state of California. Also, the president unveils plans to combat homelessness, and AOC endorses Democratic Congressman Dan Lipinski's primary opponent.
Team Rising is here. Andrew Feldman is a Democratic strategist, and Madeline Osburn is a staff writer for The Federalist. Thank you to you both.
Great to see you guys.
Great to be here.
All right, Andrew, the political world was shocked when Andrew Yang overtook Kamala Harris in her own home state.
Shocked,
I was not shocked. 7% to Harris's 6%. Are we reading too much into it, or is this a phenomenon? What's going on here?
No, I think what we're reading into is that Kamala Harris's campaign is struggling.
Right.
That's what I think we're reading into. I think we've seen that consistently. You saw it in the poll, the national poll that was out yesterday. She was behind Buttigieg, and I think that I'm having a tough time figuring out how she comes back here. She didn't wow at the debate last week. You know, I think she's just struggling and needs to figure it out. But let me tell you, I was at the debate last week, and there is some energy around Andrew Yang, right? There was the after party DNC put on after the debate, and literally hundreds of people were in that room holding big $100 bills with Andrew Yang's face on it. So, you know, there was definitely some energy around Andrew Yang, and you know, look, he's doing better than anyone expected, so good for him.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, Madeline, he is doing so well that MSNBC even learned that his name is Andrew and not John.
Not John. Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
What I think is significant about Kamala losing in her home state is that this is her one shot, right? There are a million people in California that would love to be president. So if she falls out of this race, there's no reason that Gavin Newsom is not running in 2024. Like, he's not going to give her another shot, you know? So this is her one chance. And yeah, I think Andrew's right. It's a sign that her campaign is
Well, this is the state with the most delegates up for grabs, right? The case for Kamala's electability was always that, you know, California's moved up in the lineup, and it's newly, you know, incredibly significant. So if you are not even in the top 3 in your home state, that's hard to recover from. The bottom line here is Elizabeth Warren is eating her lunch. I mean, they have a very similar sort of base of support. It's coalesced around Warren and left Kamala Harris out in the cold.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Look, Elizabeth Warren is creating a sort of energy within our party right now that is reminiscent of what Obama did in 2007. I think this primary, in a lot of ways, is stacking up as Warren at the Obama of 07 and Biden the Hillary of 07, and we're going to see how it winds up. It's pretty fascinating. And you look at Kamala. It's not, to me, this poll is not the be-all, end-all poll, right? Because I think it is important to note it was an automated poll and an online poll. They didn't call cell phones.
All the caveats.
But it is important to you do see Kamala is not surging in any other poll that comes out. So I think her campaign has to huddle and say, what can we do?
And ultimately what sank her was the poll-tested answers, the lack of authenticity, the real just like lack of message from the campaign. It seemed that she wanted to drive home this kind of centrist, I will take on Trump type message. But as long as Joe Biden is in the race, I mean, there's no reason for many of these voters to go with her, right, Madeline?
There's no, you're exactly right. There's no reason there's no draw to her.
Right.
And she lacks this charismatic ability to draw people to her like Andrew Yang does, right? So she is horrible on the stump. We've seen that in the debate. It's okay to have canned answers. Everybody does. But when she delivers her canned answers, they're extremely, come across as, like, you tried to memorize.
Like she's trying too hard.
Yeah, did y'all see her Jimmy Kimmel appearance the other night?
No.
There was minutes of like, she's just not good on the fly.
Well, it was interesting. I think that's a good point, because that first debate, right, that was her moment. She had it ready to go. She had it locked and loaded. She delivered that punch on Joe Biden perfectly. And then I saw her in an interview the next morning. I was like, is this even the same person? Because to your point, it just wasn't smooth, right? It wasn't smooth. It wasn't crisp. It wasn't differentiated. She just seemed like, you know, sort of an average candidate.
She sounds like the girl that wants to be cool, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there is something, she's good when she can prepare and prepare and prepare and prepare. But if you want her to be off the cuff, if she's going to take some incoming fire, it just doesn't go well.
I mean, here are my two flashpoints on Kamala that made me question. I really thought after that first debate that this was someone I could get behind.
Yeah.
But then you look at, her answers on healthcare. You know, you watch, I mean, this Addie Barkey story is is really powerful, and he's doing interviews with all these candidates. And you watch her interview, and she has a moment where she talks about her mother and gets emotional, but then he pushes her on healthcare, actual policy, and it's a kind of, again, unsure of where to go. But also, the moment after the second debate, she got hit by Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard landed a big punch, and she does not know how to answer, and even in the spin room after, I mean, give me a break. This lady is one of the top candidates for president, and she doesn't know how to answer issues in her record.
Right.
I believe that the campaign has talked to her about that, and it just hasn't. There hasn't been a response.
Right. It just shows somebody who's not listening. But the other thing we should talk about, actually, speaking about California, in Kamala's own state, the president recently went to California for a fundraiser. He's talking about going after homelessness there. It's something I actually care quite a lot about. I've spent some time in California, and the issue is completely out of control. My question is do you guys think that this will become a issue on the Democratic side? I want, obviously, Crystal, we need your thought. What do you think, Andrew?
Look, I think it's a real issue, but I don't think this president has any ground to stand on homelessness, especially when, every day is another racist tweet or racist comment. So, I think that it's an important issue. I mean, even when you're walking around here in D.C., it's
gotten worse.
The problem is that the way that he comes at it is not from care and concern from people who are living on the streets, struggling and sometimes with addiction, struggling sometimes with mental illness, struggling sometimes with just the fact that the rent is so freaking expensive, especially in some of these cities in California. It's not about that. His concern, and this is what he's articulated, I'm not putting words in his mouth, is for the property owners, for the people who have paid lots of money to live in these buildings and have to, oh dear, see a homeless person on the sidewalk. So it's hard for Democrats to see him as like a real partner in this when that's the way he approaches the issue.
Yeah, but Democratic policies have not done anything about it.
I don't think
care and concern now for 40 years.
I honestly do not think it matters how he comes at it, because Trump's strength is identifying the problem.
Right.
He talks about problems and
nobody else will talk about.
He highlights them in a way that motivates people, whether they're Democrats or not, and he calls them out and brings light to these issues that other people aren't.
In San Francisco, you walk around. I saw a lady shooting heroin into her neck in broad daylight, and everybody just looks the other way. It's like impolite in order to say something about it.
But the answer to that is not to criminalize homelessness, which is probably the direction that it sounds like Trump is going to go in. It's to have treatment facilities. It's to have actual shelters. It's to have affordable housing. But look at how he talks about it.
It's to reverse liberal utopias like San Francisco and LA. Their policies have created these they're handing out syringes.
Can we have some empathy,
and they're driving around shower trucks.
Of course we have empathy for them, but people who live there. Well, for children who are walking, parents with families should not be walking around with people defecating on the streets and heroin. I mean, I see this
what
stuff
about
every
those
single
children
day.
that are on the street?
It's
so you
horrible.
want to criminalize homelessness?
Absolutely not. But I'm saying
the president wants to criminalize.
I don't think he wants to criminalize
homelessness. You can have empathy by not creating enabling policies. So the NIMBYism or the self-injection sites, these types of things are not helping people get out of their problems.
I mean, look, it's a big systemic issue, but let's also be clear. We fixate on, and I'm the one that brought it up, so this is on me. We fixate on the addicts. We fixate on people who have mental illness, right? All of whom should be getting treatment and not criminalized. But the majority of homeless people are just families who cannot afford rent. Right? I mean, that is the biggest issue that we're facing here. And, listen, if the president manages to put homelessness and poverty at the center of the national agenda, I am all for it. Do I think that he's doing it for any other reason than to make some political point about failing liberal cities? No, I do not.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
We will have more with Team Rising after a quick break.